All right. Well, good morning, everyone, and welcome to the second All Club Conference call for your Rotary International District 7770, brought to you by the Conversations with Rotary Action People team. My name is Donald Hovis with the CWRAP Rotary Club here in Myrtle Beach, South Carolina. So thank you for being with us today. Do we have a volunteer that would like to come off of mute and bless today's meeting?
I'll do it since there's no volunteers. I'll be glad to ask for the continued blessings that shine upon Rotary and its members. We ask, Lord, for the blessings of our good work. And we ask that you continue to help those amongst us suffering during this time. We will work towards solving the problems that are presented to us as we also care and love our neighbor. We ask blessings on our speaker today, that she may share the light that will guide us to future service in the area of polio. Amen.
Thank you, DG Pauline. I will now do the vision statement of Rotary. Together, we see a world where people unite and take action to create lasting change across the globe, in our communities, and in ourselves. Now we will go to introductions, and I will call you as I see you on my screen. So the first person I see on my screen is Mary Gask. Please come off mute and introduce yourself and mention your Rotary Club.
Hi guys, Mary Gask, 5 Points Rotary. Good to see you.
Terry Moore.
Hi guys, Terry Moore from Somerville Evening Rotary Club.
We will introduce Nancy in a second. Let's do Kay Davis.
Kay Davis, after Sunrise.
Sandy Brooks.
Sandy Brooks, Hilton Head Island Rotary Club.
Derek Saxby.
Hi, Derek Saxby, Blythewood Rotary Club.
Lou Mello.
Good afternoon, Lou Mello, Mount Pleasant Rotary.
Next up, David and Susan Terrard.
Hey everybody, David and Susan Terrard from the Rotary Club of Hilton Head Island.
Miriam.
Miriam Fisher, 5 Points Rotary Club.
Mr. Bernie Rydell.
Bernie Rydell, Rotary Club of Hilton Head Island.
Miss Ann Matthews. Oh, Ann, you're on mute.
Ann Matthews, Columbia East Rotary.
Mr. Bob Gross.
Bob Gross, Sea Island Rotary Club in Beaufort.
Mr. Tony.
Tony Matthews, Sunset Rotary Club, Hilton Head Island.
All right. Brian Julius.
Hi, everybody. Brian Julius, Hilton Head Rotary Club.
And I'm going to stop right here before I go to the next person and say, Brian is our featured speaker on Friday for Conversations with Rotary Action People. 11 o'clock. You want to tune in. Brian, I'll be calling you later to talk about Friday.
Thank you.
Eric Davis.
Eric Davis, Vista Night Rotary Club in Columbia.
Mr. Charles Savrance.
Yeah, I'm Charles Savrance with the Rotary Club of Hartsville.
Mr. Christian Brutzer.
Hi everyone, Christian Brutzer, that's Charleston Breakfast Club.
Mr. Jerry Bright.
Jerry Bright, Columbia Rotary Club.
Mr. Ken Corbett.
Ken Corbett, Columbia St. Andrews, Columbia.
How about Jay Jones Elliott?
Jay Elliott from Somerville Lunch Club.
Thank you. Before I go to the next person, going forward, guys, when you log on to Zoom, if you can put your first name and your last name, please. Just put your first name and your last name for us. How about DG Pauline?
Yes, welcome again, DG Pauline from the Myrtle Beach Club. And next time we do this round, it would be great to know if you hold any positions in your club or have held any positions in the district, get to know a little bit more about one another as we continue these weekly club meetings. So thanks, Don.
Thank you. And for this week, if you guys want to use the chat box for any of that information, feel free to do so. Now, we are pleased to be joined by Miss Nancy Barbee, who is the Zone 33 Regional Rotary Foundation Coordinator. Did I get that right, Nancy?
Did.
Now, I will say I had the pleasure of speaking with you and the wonderful Ann Matthews on a CWRAP segment. That was very early in the pandemic. May have been in early April, I think, maybe. I don't remember the exact date, but we're pleased to have you here. I know you're going to talk a lot today about National Immunization Days, a lot about polio. So without further ado, Nancy, take it away.
Thank you so much, Donald, and thank you, Mary, for inviting me. And it's so good to see so many friends on this call. I've been in your district several times before, and it's good to see you, even though not face-to-face in person, but virtually is pretty good too. So thank you for having me again. And some of you probably have heard my story about polio, but for those of you that have not, I traveled to India. I'm from a very small town in eastern North Carolina, and to travel so far away, that was my first huge trip, and it was a personal mission in 2001. I went with some friends to India, and we had a wonderful time, but it was that time that I met Rotarians in a place called Dunbad, which is about maybe 150 miles west of Kolkata. And I met Rotarians there, and they took me to see polio corrective surgeries. And when we got in those polio corrective surgeries, I said, what do you mean polio? Polio is gone. We don't have polio anymore. I had no idea. I remember taking the polio cube, sugar cube years ago that probably a lot of you had taken, but I never thought about polio again. I remember my children were immunized against polio, among other diseases. Never really thought about polio until I arrived in India and realized that polio was still alive and well in a lot of countries. And at that particular point in time, it was many, many, many countries. I saw beggars on the street, and I was told that these beggars were outcast in their homes. So they were not allowed to be in their homes, and they were just cast out of society. So they had to beg for their food, they had to beg for money, whatever they could manage to get. Not only did they take me to see polio corrective surgeries, but I saw a lot of other projects that were going on with Rotary in Dunbad. And then later on, I found out there were many projects all over India, such as water wells being built, a school that was for mentally challenged children that they sponsored. We saw other types of surgeries, pediatric heart surgeries. I saw so many projects that the Rotarians were taking part in on a daily basis. They would assign certain people to be in charge of that project, and they would go out and make sure that project was completed. The whole club joined together. In my small club, we did some things, but we didn't do things like that. And I wanted people to come and see. I said, in my mind, a seed was sprouted right then that maybe I could bring some Rotarians in the future to see what I had seen in India, to spur on with these projects. Polio tapped me on the shoulder just a little bit, but I thought, well, I can't really do anything about polio. Maybe one day I can bring a group to India. I came back and I was virtually a brand new Rotarian too. I didn't join Rotary until 2000. But I found out a lot about polio. I found out that it was highly infectious and that it affected children mostly under the age of 5. And I found out that it was spread person to person by contaminated water, and it could attack the nervous system and can lead to paralysis and even death. And not only that, I found out that post-polio syndrome was something that polio survivors have to deal with on a daily basis, that it could lie dormant for years, and then all of a sudden in their 40s, 50s, 60s, come back with a vengeance. I found out there is no cure, but there is a safe and effective vaccine used by Rotary and all of our partners. And over the period of course of the years, 2.5 billion children have been immunized by Rotarians. Now that's pretty significant, I think. I found out too that there was type 1, 2, and 3 polio, and that types 2 and 3 had been eradicated, but type 1 still has not been eradicated. I found out because of Rotary in 1988, 350,000 cases of polio were in 125 countries. That was published because of Rotary. No one really paid that much attention to polio until Rotary came into the fold and said, we're going to take this on. It's been around for thousands of years. In 1985, the Polio Plus program was launched. And to date, we have spent $237 million on polio eradication by governments, by our government. 16 billion for eradication of polio over the past 30 some plus years. And 2.1 billion of those dollars have come from Rotarians. That's pretty significant, I think. Rotary founded or helped to found something called Global Polio Eradication Initiative, GPEI for short. And we have many partners with GPEI. Of course, Rotary is part of that, the CDC, UNICEF, World Health Organization, the Gates Foundation, and now a new one called Gavi, that is a vaccine alliance that has just come into the partnership this year. It was in 2009 that I was privileged to be selected as governor, and I went to San Diego. And that was the year that Bill and Melinda Gates decided that they would partner with Rotary. Bill Gates walked across the stage when we were in San Diego as DGEs and said, I'm giving a $255 million match to polio. And I'm giving it to Rotary, not to another organization, not to a church, not to other civic organizations, but to Rotary. And I think right then is when Rotary did more than tap me on the shoulder. Polio did more than tap me on the shoulder. It sort of hit me in the head and said, okay, now is the time for you to do something. And it was that year that I decided that I would take groups of Rotarians to India on National Immunization Days. I had participated in one National Immunization Day years before, and this was my opportunity. That year, I took 35 Rotarians from around the world to India for the very first time, and the rest is history. On that immunization day, we do a lot of things besides immunize children. I take the groups to the World Health Organization in India. Those are the people that are on the ground. They work with every state in India, every village in India. They know exactly where outbreaks have occurred, where they will occur, where there are hot spots, and they are on it 24/7. They do the surveillance, and that is extremely important with polio eradication. They do the surveillance in those villages, and I don't know how they manage to do this, but they can track exactly where that polio outbreak came. from, which village, which child, which sanitation problem they had in that particular area. It's amazing how they can track that. And because of these practices in India, they are using these practices with COVID-19. They have used the test, track, and trace method that I'm sure you've heard on the news with COVID-19. A lot of these practices came from working with the polio virus. So it's just been amazing. We visit the UNICEF office, which is another one of our partners in Delhi. They also do a lot of tracking, tracing. They work with children, but they work with not just polio, they work with a lot of other programs as well. But of course, polio is one of their main focuses, and they will not do another project or not get involved heavily in another project, so we were told, until polio is eradicated. There's a very special doctor that we visit that has the last polio ward in India and does orthopedic surgeries. And I'm sure you've probably seen him in the Rotarian magazine or Time magazine. His name is Dr. Matthew Barbee, and he's at the St. Stephen's Hospital in New Delhi. When you visit Dr. Matthew, he's just a very small man. He's very sleight of hand, very well-spoken, but very soft-spoken. And I love to take his hand in mine because those hands have performed miracles. Those hands have given people a chance and given their dignity back to them. Those orthopedic surgeons, and he trains other surgeons to do the same thing because there still are a lot of survivors in India that have had polio over the years. They come to Dr. Matthew. He breaks their legs, cuts their tendons, and then straightens their leg as much as he can, puts plaster cast on their legs. They're given all kinds of treatments in the surgery ward, and they stay there for months. They have surgery time and time again until eventually they can put a brace on their leg so that they can stand for the first time. And in India, to be able to stand, and in other developing countries, to be able to stand means that you can get married, means that you can have a job. It means that you're not a crawler on the street anymore, and you can have that dignity back. He tells the story of two young people that were polio survivors. One young girl came and she had surgery. He's operated on her several times. And years later, after she had been able to stand, she brought a young man back with her, and it was her husband. He also was a polio survivor. He was able to stand, and he was able to walk. They had a child, and both of them had jobs. And he says the smile on her face tells the whole story, that she was able to live a normal for her life. So it's almost a miracle what he does. But Dr. Matthew is just an amazing person, an amazing man. He's been all over the world speaking about orthopedic surgeries, and not just polio, but other kinds of orthopedic surgeries that he has actually invented or created different ways of doing things. At the time when we were there in the past, we have also visited the polio office, the polio, it was a separate office. They've closed that office down now, but it is also, they also have a person in the main office in New Delhi that is the Rotary International office there, South Asia office. And so they have a person that's still in charge of polio. And when we go to do the NIDs, they're the ones that give us the vest and the caps and give us presents and toys and things of that nature to go out into the field to give to the children when we're doing the eradication. They're the ones that help Rotarians, because it is Rotarians that go out into this field and get a kit for every Rotary Club in the whole country. They get kits for those days that they pass out toys, they pass out all kinds of things. They get the eradication, the immunizations, and they are the ones that help distribute that, along with the local healthcare workers. Folks, it's the local healthcare workers that are really the heroes, because they're out in the field every single day, every day. They know exactly where a child has been born. They know exactly the age of the children in their local, in the area where they are assigned. And it's amazing. They don't do that on a computer. They don't track that on a computer. They don't track it on their phone. They have pencil and paper, but they know exactly where those children are. The first day of the immunization, we are stationed at a booth, and we stay in one spot mostly. It could be at a school where they've set up a booth. It could be in a train station. It could be in a church or synagogue. It could be in a temple. It could be on a corner where a lot of traffic takes place. Once they know that the country knows that there's a National Immunization Day, it is publicized throughout the country. And everyone knows that the polio workers are there. This last trip that we took this past year, we were in an all Muslim community. And there was one Muslim polio warrior, I want to call him, that was one of the leaders in the community. And he was calling everyone, because you've heard probably over the years that we would have more problems with Muslim communities and they not wanting to have the immunizations because of misinformation and because of things that they were, it was construed that we were there to damage or hurt their children instead of help them. But this polio warrior called all of the children, called everyone to come out, and they brought their children. So those children come on foot with an older sibling. They come in the arms of their parents. They come on the back of a cart. They come in on motorcycles. They come any way that they can to get there to have those children immunized. And then when you're standing there and a parent looks you in the eye, and you can see the trust that they have on their faces, that they trust that you're doing the best thing for their child. They tilt the head back, we tilt the head back, and those 2 drops are given to that child. And most of the parents smile very broadly and say thank you to the Rotarians, because they know that it's okay now, that we're doing what's best for their child and that we've saved that child from having polio. I see Sandy's been with me on a trip. Ann has been with me on a trip. Several, I don't see any, Gary Bradham has been with me on a trip. And I think there's been some other ones that have been, Jimmy Williamson from your district have been on trips. And it is a rewarding experience to see that child. I had one Rotarian at one point, one year, to say, well, I only got to immunize one child. And the answer to her did not come from me. It came from another Rotarian that was on the trip. And that Rotarian said, have you ever heard of the story about the young boy or girl that goes on the beach and is picking up starfish and throwing them back in the water? And someone says, why in the world are you doing that? And the answer is, because it makes a difference to that one starfish. And her answer to the Rotarian was, you made a difference in that child's life. That's your child. Your child, you've saved that child. And there's no telling what that child will become. You've given that person or that child, that mother, hope for a good life for that child. So that's why we do the polio eradication. Once we drop those 2 drops, the very next day, let me go back. Once we drop those 2 drops, then we paint their pinky purple. And some people have said, oh, couldn't you just take a regular magic marker? It's a special magic marker type pen that they have, that the ink stays on the purple, the pinky, for maybe 3 weeks. so they don't let that they don't let those pins go. We tried to get one, to confiscate one, to bring it home. That doesn't happen. So those are the type of things that the Polio Plus program provides: the immunizations, the rallies that they do, getting the public image out in the community to make sure that people know that national immunization is coming. I mentioned earlier the healthcare workers. These healthcare workers, they are assigned certain areas, and then once they get to that area, on every house, once we immunize a child in that house, they have a marking on the door, and they'll mark and tell which team came, what type of polio vaccine it was, and then also the date that was given. So the second day, the third day, however many days we stay, which we usually only do 2 days, the second day is the mop-up day, and that's when we walk door to door. And I'm telling you, that's grueling. It's crowded. We're walking through slum areas. We're walking through places that you would never dream a child was coming. A lot of times we knock on doors, or a lot of times we'll see children with bringing their parents walking down the street. They've been to the market or somewhere, and we check that child if they look like they're under 5. We'll check that child and to find out if his pinky or her pinky has been painted. If not, then we immunize them right there. And we want to make sure that that child is under 5, because that's where it strikes the most. And this is how we check whether that child is 5 or not. All of you take your arm right now and put it over your head and see if you can touch your ear. Let me see you do it. Touch your ear. Can you touch your ear? That means you're over 5 years old. Ha! Everybody on the call is over 5 years old. If they can't touch, then we know that child is under 5, and we make sure that child is immunized. It's just one of the ways that we were taught to do that. Because of Rotary, we have immunized so many children. And let me tell you that if those children had not been immunized, we have learned that it is, with this COVID-19 particularly, that it is one plane ride away. I mean, look what happened with COVID-19. It spread because people that were infected traveled the world. And that's why we're where we are today. We want to make sure that every child is immunized. We were just happy to learn that Nigeria has just been declared polio-free by WHO. They should be, that's a big accomplishment. And that's because of Rotary, and that's because of the best practices that have happened with polio eradication in India and other places. In Pakistan, we're still having some issues, and it's because of terrorism, because of misunderstandings, miscommunications that have been put out in the public. It's because people don't understand that it's helping their children. We've got some people in Pakistan that are really working very hard. Aziz Maiman is the Polio Plus chair there, and one of our newest trustees on the Rotary Foundation. And he's working very hard along with his team. But when the miscommunication goes out in the world or out in the country, and which has happened in Pakistan, a lot of polio workers have been shot and killed, and that's very unfortunate. And it's tragic, really, to think that those people that are trying to help other people or help children are being killed and not allowed to do their job. But it's coming along. I mean, I think we'll get there eventually. It's just so many different places that have not been found exactly, and we have more cases coming out, and you'll see that. But a lot of times it's because also that they don't know exactly where those places are that they need to go into, and they're finding more places where children are living. After we have walked the streets in on a mop-up day, that's usually the end of our trip. A lot of times we will do that first in the trip, and a lot of times we'll do it near the end. Because when you go to India, I mean, when I take groups to India, I cannot go without taking them to the Taj Mahal and see some sights. You have to, if you go that far, you've got to see some sights. So we go to see the Taj Mahal. We see, this last time we were in Kolkata, we visit Mother Teresa's mission and some other important monuments and things of that nature. We get a chance to meet Rotarians while we're there. Sometimes go to a club meeting, sometimes just meet them on the streets or meet them when we're organizing the groups and sending them out with the Rotarians. Other Rotarians, we get a chance to meet those Rotarians. And then I like to take them to see the different projects that the Rotarians there are doing, whether it's an eye hospital or a pediatric heart surgery hospital or water projects. Water and sanitation is a huge issue there now. The TEACH program is also a huge project that is happening. It's a basic education and literacy project in India. Unfortunately, coming up this year, I'm not planning a trip because of COVID-19. They've also suspended the NIDs for the time being until COVID-19 is under control. Hopefully next January, February, we'll be cleared to travel again. I will continue to take groups to India and maybe some other places as well until this virus is eradicated. I mean, it has to be. We made a promise to the children of the world that this would be eradicated, and there is no excuse for any child ever again to have polio because we do have a vaccine. So thank you for allowing me to be here today. If there's any questions, I'd be glad to answer them as best that I can. And I hope next time when we do travel again that some of you will decide to go with us on the trip. Thank you.
Thank you, Nancy. Great presentation. Absolutely wonderful information.
Thank you.
If you didn't learn something during that presentation, then I don't know, you wouldn't learn anything from any presentation. So thank you very much. Very, very informative. We do have several questions here, and I will start with, given the level of illiteracy, how do they advertise National Immunization Days?
That's a great question. They go through the streets. They have rallies, and Rotarians and healthcare workers go together. And when they go through the streets, they have a yellow vest, and they can see the yellow vest coming. It's word of mouth. It's a lot of times it's word of mouth. And also they use famous personalities in India, like Bollywood stars and things of that nature. And everybody recognizes that. You don't have to read to recognize some of those Bollywood stars. And then, and they realize if they can't read anything else, they read polio, or they'll see the child with his head back and the drops in his mouth. So it's through word of mouth, it's through rallies, it's through posters being put up all over everywhere. A lot of publicity goes into making sure they know. And years ago, it was kind of hard to get the word out there, but now they're very aware of it. And of course, as you know, India has had no polio cases. I think they've been declared polio free now. I think it's going on 7 years. So that's basically how they do that.
Do you ever have parents that refuse to have their children be immunized?
In the past, yes.
Immunized, sorry.
Yes, in the past that has happened, especially in the Muslim areas. There are Muslim big communities in India, of Muslim communities, and they were told and misinformed that it was harmful to their child, that the West was coming in to harm their child. So that has happened in the past. Rotarians have been into those communities and talked to the leaders in those communities, the head chief or whichever leader, whatever the name is they have for their leader, and convince them and talk to them and become friends with them. So that doesn't happen. It's very rare now if it happens in India. Pakistan, yes, that does happen. Afghanistan, yes, that does happen. And before, this is changing the subject, but Brian Julius, that you're going to hear from on Friday, wrote a speaking book, has a speaking book about polio, and that was used widely in Pakistan, especially to explain what polio was and how it is contracted and how it is spread. And it's still, I'm not sure if it's still being used today, but I've passed out a lot of those books, and I'm telling you that it's fabulous. So I'm not going to tell him more about that. I'll let him tell you that on Friday.
We appreciate the plug, though, and David, Brian was he was shaking his head that they're still being used. So we look forward to hearing from him on Friday. Exactly. So how is it going with immunization in Kashmir, India?
In Kashmir, so far so good. They're still polio free. Kashmir, is right on the border, and that they're fighting over Kashmir, or have been. India and Pakistan have been fighting over Kashmir for years. They really aren't anymore fighting over it, because Prime Minister Modi now says Kashmir wants to be Pakistan, go ahead, no problem. Now Pakistan doesn't really want them. India has said, we're not going to support you anymore. You want to be free, be free. So they're not really fighting over Kashmir anymore. They're polio free in Kashmir. The polio rallies, everything, that immunizations, the immunizations go there just like they do all over the other parts of the country. The problem comes the border between China and India, the border areas between Pakistan and India, and that used to cause a huge problem, because Pakistan used to be part of India, and they have family. A lot of Pakistanis have family that go across the border back and forth, and they used to not check that. Now you have to have a visa to come in. Pakistanis have to have visas, and they are checked very strongly and made sure that child, if they bring any children in, or the parents have to have that, make sure that child is immunized. So that's where the problem came. But Kashmir seems to be okay.
How can we secure safety for the polio workers?
That's a great question. That's going to have to be a Pakistani issue. I know that they do have a lot of security now surrounding those healthcare workers that are going out into the fields. I really, honestly, I can't answer that question honestly. That would have to be Aziz Mehman question and answer, because I don't really know. I've not been to Pakistan. I speak to him. And in fact, I'll go ahead and invite all of you now. On July the 29th, we're having a polio event with my district, and Aziz Mehman from Pakistan will be there. Tunji Fushio from Nigeria will be there. Ann Matthews will be speaking, and also John Germ will be speaking. So a lot of the questions that you have that I can't answer, they certainly will be able to.
Once eradicated, what is the ongoing plan to keep it eradicated?
Continue immunization. That's why we continue even after they have been declared polio free. Is continue immunization, just like we do here, just like we do in the United States. Babies are being born. Most parents, some parents recently have not wanted their children immunized. And we have seen that that is very detrimental to the health of our nation, because we've seen measles outbreaks. We've seen Ebola that came in. We've seen different things that can spread. Now we're here with COVID. Of course, we don't have a vaccine for COVID, but we have to make sure that those children are continued to be immunized. So that's why we continue to go and have national immunization days. National immunization days are once a year, once or twice a year. Sub-national immunization days are once or twice a year. Healthcare workers are continue every week. They're out. Every week they're out. Children are being born. As soon as they're born, they get immunized.
And my final question for you is, what is the cost to those who travel for a national immunization day?
Good question. It depends on where we go, and it depends on the time of year. Most of the time that we go, it's usually in January or February, and it could be anywhere from $3,000 to $3,500. It depends on if we take an in-country flight, and if it depends on how long we stay. Usually the trip lasts 12, 13 days, and sometimes a little bit shorter, sometimes a little bit longer. I had planned, because I'm working with Rotaractors pretty strongly now, and I had planned a 6 or 7 day trip for them and for any other Rotarian that wanted to go just into the Delhi area. We were not going to do a lot of sightseeing, but just in the Delhi area. But of course that's been canceled. So that would have been a little bit less expensive, but it's around $3,000 to $3,500.
Well, thank you so much. And now, Miss Ann Matthews would like to say a few words about something she learned about polio.
Great, thank you.
Ann,
Yes.
we can hear you. Take it away. Oh, you're on mute.
Okay. Can you hear me?
All right, we got you.
Okay. I have a new computer, y'all. It'll take months to get used to it. But anyway, all of you've heard that there's been a lot of disagreement, a lot of concern about WHO. And I chair that committee, the advocacy committee, where I go to Washington several times a year and thank our congressmen and women for the monies that they appropriate to help us eradicate polio. The money traditionally has gone to CDC and UNICEF. And then from there, they give a portion of that money. Those two U.S. agencies give a portion of that money to WHO. Well, we've been working, I'm not kidding you, so much over the last month, 6 weeks or whatever. My whole committee has been doing this, making contact with people in Congress and trying to secure that funding for polio, to eradicate polio. The only thing I'll say at this point in time is that this morning we learned that we are going to get 61 million for CDC. And that's good. That's progress. So a lot of work is going into getting that 61 million for CDC. We'll just have to wait and see if Foreign Ops next week or whenever they meet will give us money that will go to UNICEF, and we'll work from there. But I thought I'd share that with you because there's been a lot of concern, a lot of phone calls, a lot of letters, everything going back and forth to help us secure that funding, because we get about total of about 237 million from our government to help us eradicate polio. And I think Nancy may have mentioned this earlier, but our government has given more than any other government in the world to help us eradicate polio. And we have about 50 governments that do contribute. I wanted to share that with you because I'm so pleased that we did get that 61 million. Thank you, Donald.
Thank you, Miss Ann. I will say, continuing on about polio, I want you to mark on your calendar Friday, July 24th, 11 a.m. We will be joined by polio survivor, Mr. John Nanny. Now, if you were at Gary Bradham's district conference in Myrtle Beach, John Nanny was there. It was, in my years of Rotary, probably one of the most moving presentations I've ever heard. So you're definitely in for a real treat on Friday, July 24th, 11 o'clock. Please mark that on your calendar. Share it with your Rotary clubs too, please. To end today's meeting, I'll recite the Rotary four-way test. Of the things we think, say, or do, is it the truth? Is it fair to all concerned? Will it build goodwill and better friendships? Will it be beneficial to all concerned? Thanks again, Nancy. Great presentation. Thank you all for joining. See everyone on Friday at 11 o'clock for the next conversations with Rotary Action people. Have a great Wednesday. Take care.